A behavioral point of view. Freud's psychoanalytic theory was the first modern theory of personality, and it had a lot of effect and followers, but also had a lot of critics. A young American psychologist named John B. Watson, 1878 to 1958, was one of the most vocal critics of psychoanalytic theory, believing that psychology should abandon the subjective study of the mind in favor of scientific methods and empirical inquiry. Watson started a revolution in psychology by introducing a new school of thought known as behaviorism. Watson was joined by a large number of psychologists who shared his beliefs that psychology should reject Freud's and others' mental and unconscious concepts, instead focus on the scientific examination of overt observable behavior. The behaviorists were like physicists, working on experiments at a time to find the fundamental natural principles of behavior while neglecting the mind entirely. B.F. Skinner, 1904 to 1990, a brilliant experimentalist who finally rivaled, if not exceeded, Sigmund Freud in shaping the development of psychology, was their leader. Skinner conducted several studies on lower animals, uncovering the important rules of animal behavior and authoring many books. Unfortunately, many people wrongly criticized Skinner because they did not like the outcome of his experiments. Skinner was frequently asked if he thought of himself in the same way he did his research animals. And because Skinner's research subjects were lower animals like rats and pigeons, therefore it's possible that this inquiry was not asked in good faith. Skinner, on the other hand, took the topic seriously and responded boldly and defiantly in 1983. He said, "The answer is yes. So far as I am aware, my behavior at any given time is solely the result of my genetic makeup, personal experience, and the current situation." This is an excellent description of the behaviorist approach to personality. Personality is described as behavior, and behavior is influenced by three factors: heredity, personal history, and current circumstances. Skinner's response refers to behavior in response to the inquiry. In contrast, a psychoanalyst might have answered this issue by referring to the unconscious. When asked about personality, behaviorists immediately think of behavior. Skinner does not dismiss the importance of genetics. It is sometimes stated that behaviorism disregards heredity. This suggestion is false. Skinner mentions the current setting as a contributing aspect. This section of the answer is on situationism, which is the idea that the circumstances we are in at any given time can influence how we act. Skinner brings up his own personal background. This is something that needs to be explained. When behaviorists talk about personal history, they don't mean the kind of events that Sigmund Freud and the psychoanalysts thought were significant in personality formation, including traumatic violent or sexual events that had been stored in the child's unconsciousness. When behaviorists talk about personal history, they are not talking about the mind. What they mean is that each individual has experiences in his or her surrounding, most notably interactions with people, experiences that shape the person's tendency to act in a particular way through reinforcement and other rules of behavior. If a child is outgoing, if a child has an outgoing contact and that contact is reinforced, for example, such behavior will become more prevalent. Similarly, if a child has negative experience with animals, or he or she may develop a dislike for animals. Depending on the circumstances and inherited characteristics, a young person who repeatedly receives praise for generosity will learn to respond generously in similar situations in the future. The reinforcing event that each of us has experienced in our past are referred to as personal history by behaviorists. According to behaviorists, personality is behavior and conduct is largely determined by our experience in the environment. Successful or pleasurable behaviors are likely to become more common. Behaviors that fail or result in displeasure will become less common. The limit of heredity and situationism influence these issues. Behaviorism's central view is that behavior is taught and that it may or may not be consistent from one setting to the next. If extroverted behavior is rewarded in one set of circumstances but not in another, the person will become extroverted in situations that are similar to the first, but not in situations that are similar to the second. Skinner's response summarizes the central foundation of behaviorism. As far as we know, a person's behavior at any given time is influenced by 1. His or her heredity, 2. the position in which he or she finds himself, and 3. previous experiences in the surrounding. We should note that and keep in mind that one of the most positive aspects of behaviorism is the notion that if behaviors are learned, they can also be unlearned. Behaviorism is a set of experimental study findings that suggest basic principles of personality formation rather than a unified theory of personality. The focus of behaviorism is not on people's personal attributes, but on how they perform in different situations. Behaviorists do not discuss qualities, instead they discuss actions. In the framework of behaviorism, personality is defined as the sum of a person's actions in various situations. A person's many behaviors, which have been learned mostly through interaction with parents, family members, instructors, and other people they come across. The views of behaviorism. Although the essential views of behaviorism are straightforward, the details can be complicated. The following are some of the behaviorist core beliefs, core theoretical beliefs. 1. Personality is an abstract. It's hypothetical notion best understood as the total of a person's behavior in various settings. Personality should be understood as observable behavior rather than part of the mind. But 2, behaviors should be experimentally examined to understand the precise variable that influence and shape personality within the realms of experience. That's the environment. Psychology must be seen as a scientific endeavor. Number 3, mental variables, that's the mind, are not valid scientific subjects and therefore are not factors that impact contact. Looking inside the organism to understand behavior has tended to confuse the variables that are readily available for scientific examination. That was said by Skinner. Skinner said, outside the organism, in its immediate environment and its environmental history, these variables exist. Inner states are not denied because they do not exist, but because they are irrelevant. Skinner, 1953. Number 4, people are shaped by their experience rather than being born good or bad. Each person's growth is influenced by inherited variables, but the fundamental drivers of personality development are the events that occur in people's lives. Number 5, learning is the primary means of developing behaviors. Reinforcement and observation are the most common methods of learning. Behaviors taught under one set of circumstances may not be learned under another set of circumstances, resulting in personality that varies from one context to the next. Then next, we have the social learning theory. Some behaviorists have produced theoretical models based on experimental research findings, highlighting the relevance of social situations, that is, interaction with others, and learning as the crucial component of personality development. These theories are commonly referred to as social learning theories. Learning via observation. One of the basic beliefs of social learning theory is that humans acquire many of their actions by observing others rather than by having direct experience with the world. Without a doubt, babies learn to speak and understand words through continuous step-by-step trial and error process of listening and speaking. Observational learning refers to the process of learning habits via watching or listening. Albert Bandura, one of the most prominent social learning theorists, has claimed that observational learning is an important part of human personality development. Bandura was the principal investigator in a key study that showed how observational learning may affect children watching movies. Bandura Rose and Rose 1961 showed youngsters a film in which an adult knocked and hit a blow-up Bobo the clown doll in an unusual way. The adult, for example, nailed and hit the doll across the face. After watching the film, the kids were taken to a room with a variety of toys, including Bobo the clown doll. The children's behavior in the room were captured by cameras. The kids ran over to the doll and began striking in the same way the adult had done in the film. Since that fundamental study, tens of thousands of comparable trials have been conducted, all yielding the same results. Dardon 2000, for example, found that abusive adults were more likely to have observed abuse as children. The substantial influence of observational learning has been incorporated into behaviorist theories of personality formation. Albert Bandura shared his conviction that most human behavior is taught via observation through modeling, based on significant research on the subject. Humanistic perspective. Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow are the two psychologists who came up with this theory, these humanistic theories. Humanistic theories put emphasis on people's subjective attitudes, feelings, and beliefs, particularly when it comes to their own selves. The influence of the gap between a person's perceived true self and his ideal self, or how I am and how I would like to be, is the subject of Rogers' theory, while Maslow emphasizes the value of self-actualization. Humanistic theories hold that each human has the capacity to be creative and responsible, that he is free to select his own path, and that each person tries to fulfill his or her need for self-actualization or reaching one's full potential. According to Maslow, psychoanalytic theory focuses on the abnormal personality and says little about a normal, healthy personality. Maslow suggested that psychology should focus more on the most positive and encouraging aspects of human personality, such as love, self-esteem, and creativity. He says, it's as though Freud has given us the diseased half of personality. No. It is as though Freud has given us the diseased half of psychology, and we must now fill it with the good half. That was Maslow, 1998. Maslow also believed that personality theory should focus on the conscious mind rather than the unconscious mind. He claimed that forming a person's personality is mostly a result of conscious choices and rational decision led by our desires for excellence and fulfillment. Maslow desired for the conscious mind to take center stage in personality theory. He questioned the core beliefs of behaviorism in the same way that he criticized psychoanalytic theory. He reasoned that the personality theory should focus on human attributes rather than animal behavior. Personality theories should focus on a person's inner life, feelings, and ideas, rather than their outward acts. Maslow did not believe it was necessary to take a scientific approach to personality. Personality, according to him, should focus on people's subjective mental life, emotions, thoughts, attitudes, and the conscious mind. Maslow began to construct a third approach to personality, currently known as a humanistic or humanistic psychology, with a lot of care. Humans are said to have a free will and thus the ability to make free choices in a world full of possibilities. When confronted with life's challenges, a person must choose the route that will lead to inner fulfillment. A person must make decisions that will lead to fulfillment and significance in their life. Humanistic are interested in a person's personal subjective perspective, his or her feelings, thoughts, perceptions, and worries. This is what is important and real. It makes no difference what the situation is. What counts is how the individual perceives and reacts to it. The focus is on the individual's, his or her inner conscious life. Remember that the unconscious is the core theme of psychoanalysis, and learning is the central theme of behaviorism. Self-actualization is the most essential concept in humanistic psychology. In theory, this is the highest human motivator, the most evolved human drive, the pinnacle of our inner psyche, and the quest for self-awareness. Self-actualization is the process of discovering one's genuine inner self and becoming true to one's inner identity. What a man can be, he must be. That is, according to Maslow, he remarked that in 1998. Man's greatest duty in life is to give birth to himself, to become what he possibly is. That is according to Henrik Fromm. His own personality is the most essential outcome of his efforts. From 1962. Self-actualization, according to humanistic psychology, is a lifelong fight that we all go through. The effort to find a personality that fits, that is correct and true to our inner goals and requirements. Maslow believed that while self-actualization was an ultimate objective of the human psyche, it could not be reached satisfactorily unless other drives and wants were met first. These other needs are referred to as prepotent because they must be met to a large extent in order to focus on higher demands. Maslow divided human wants and motivation into 5 categories, which he then arranged in a pyramid known as Maslow Pyramid of Needs. In order to climb up the pyramid and work on fulfilling the higher wants, a person must first satisfy the lower prepotent needs to a particular level. If we are starving to death, we will never be able to be creative or intellectually fulfilled. To create a healthy sense of self-esteem, we must be accepted, appreciated, and feel like we belong. And of course, we won't be able to achieve self-actualization unless all of our more immediate demands are addressed. Then we had Carl Rogers, came up with the idea of self-concept. Carl Rogers, 1902-1987, was a counseling psychologist who developed an influential theory of personality built on the idea of self-concept. He was one of Maslow's colleague and collaborator in humanistic psychology. Rogers' theory is often referred to as self-theory. This method stresses the feelings of worth, appreciating people, and the desire to achieve self-actualization. Rogers proposed that each person has an inner concept of what she or he would like to be in the perfect world, an ideal self. This is your idea of the type of person, the type of personality who will be ideal for you. Furthermore, it is hypothesized that every one of us possesses an underlying sense of who we are, a true self. This is your idea of what type of person you are, what kind of personality you have, and what you are you are truly like. The pursuit of self-actualization then is the attempt to bring these two ideas together. Self-actualization is the ongoing process of aligning your real self with your ideal self, or bringing the concept of who you are, that is your real self, closer and closer to who you think you should be, your ideal self. Rogers offered a counseling method that comprised a variety of therapeutic techniques aimed at assisting people on their path to self-actualization. Rogerian, person-centered, client-centered, and non-directive are some of the words used to describe these counseling strategies today. Rogers' counseling technique is based on assisting clients in the process of self-discovery. In other words, the counselor assists a client in becoming aware of his or her genuine inner self, including feelings and self-concept. After that, the client must learn to accept and embrace his or her genuine sentiments and characteristics. The client should then be prepared to take the necessary actions to meet his or her inner needs and align his or her outer self-concept with his or her inner self-concept. The views of humanism. Every individual resides in a constantly changing realm of experience in which he or she is the focal point. A person's finest source of information about himself or herself is the person himself. A person's reaction to the world of experience is based on his or her own perception, interpretation, and emotions. Rather than a succession of simple stimulus-response reactions, a person acts as a whole, integrated organism. Maintaining and actualizing oneself is a person's primary goal. The self-concept is the most important aspect of one's personality. The self structure is shaped by one's experience in the world and relationship with others. The concept of I or me is created by a structured pattern of perception, values, and emotions. Behavior is goal or directed activity that is performed to meet a need. A person adopts behaviors that are congruent with his or her sense of self. As a result, changing one's self-concept is the most effective strategy to change behavior. Experiences that are incompatible with one's sense of self are dangerous. Psychological maladjustment happens when a person denies knowledge of their experiences and refuses to accept them as part of their self-concept. Humans desire consistency in their self-concept and their universe of experience. Abnormality occurs when there is inconsistency. Self-actualization is the process of bringing our experience in the world and our sense of self into alignment. How you can apply humanistic notion in a classroom setting. Ensure that children's fundamental needs for nutrition and balanced meal safe drinking and cleaning water, proper clothing, and clean environment are addressed. Encourage the school administration, parents, and community to establish feeding programs at the school. Ensure that both at home and at school, psychological requirements for safety and security are addressed. Parents should keep the children safe from harm. Teachers should use child-friendly and educational methods of fostering discipline. Children's self-esteem is destroyed when they are caned, abused, or humiliated, and this can lead them to becoming bullies, make youngsters feel totally unloved so you should make them to feel loved and accepted. Use child-centered strategies that actively engage children and recognize their ability to address many problems independently. This will instill in children the ability to be self-sufficient and to have a high self-esteem. Education's ultimate goal is to produce a good and responsible individual. As a result, you should assist each child in reaching her maximum potential in this area. Individual differences should be recognized and children should be encouraged to develop their unique gifts and ability. Assist children in identifying their life goals early, obtaining information and developing good moral and intellectual habits, skills, attitudes that will help them achieve their goal as individuals. Thank you.